Joe Rogan Experience featuring Mark Zuckerberg. Everybody's talking about this guest appearance. In this video, the one thing that shocked me, there were a lot of things spoken about, but the one thing that shocked me was hearing Mark Zuckerberg actually acknowledge that there is a war on masculinity. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know how to feel about that. I know how I really thought about hearing that come out of his mouth. And we'll talk about why that there in a little bit. Let's listen to a little bit of this and we'll talk.
Companies that can unlock all the value from having great people, no matter what their background or gender. But I think these things can always go a little far. And I think it's one thing to say we want to be kind of like welcoming and make a good environment for everyone. And I think it's another to basically say that masculinity is bad. And I just think we kind of swung culturally to that part of the kind of the spectrum where it's all like, okay, masculinity is toxic. We have to like get rid of it completely. It's like, no, like it's both of these things are good, right? It's like you want like feminine energy, you want masculine energy. Like I think that's like you're gonna have parts of society that have more of one or the other. I think that's all good, but I do think the corporate culture sort of had swung towards being this somewhat more neutered thing.
Hearing him say that to me, bro, it's just so nuts. No pun intended. But you're listening to Mark talk about how there's a war on masculinity and this male generation that's neutered. And you're wondering, what's the motivation for this? There are a lot of people who think they know the motivation for this. We can jump to the comments here and really see what people have to say in response to his statement. This person says, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He would never backtrack on the censorship if Kamala Harris won. And somebody else here says, damn, trying his best to stay out of jail. And so there are a lot of people who look at him and his statements as disingenuous. Him trying to save his own butt because he knows the next administration is going to be in power. Really has never liked most of what Mark Zuckerberg has to stand for. The crazy thing is, I want to try to make this make sense for people who aren't content creators. But I have a feeling you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't experienced releasing content on a platform like Meta, Facebook, in particular, Instagram, pretty bad too, but Facebook, a nightmare. But if you haven't experienced releasing content on there, then you don't know that their censorship and the content that they flag, the things you're not allowed to talk about, are ridiculous. You may know if you tried to comment on a video and have somehow been blocked or have been told that you may be posting hate speech. And what Mark Zuckerberg has recently said is that he's pulling back on censorship. Now, is this just a coincidence that this is happening at the same time that there's a new administration coming in to power, that he's acknowledging that there's this war on masculinity? I mean, can you really fake jiu-jitsu? Because you see him getting into fighting, and you see the rebrand of him switching up his personal brand, which has had a pretty profound aspect of how people view him. But there's still a lot of people who are just not buying it. I'm really interested to see how things progress going forward. There are plenty of people who not too long ago would have thought you are a bitter, lost person as a male, right? That you're just speaking nonsense if you got online and said there's a war on masculinity. You'd put into a crazy category. But now there are more people acknowledging that. And when you think of who's been censoring men at an absurd level, social media platforms definitely fall into that category. Meta which is ran by Mark Zuckerberg, being one of the four most leading platforms that has had the most strict censorship. Let's keep listening a little bit more.
And I didn't really feel that until I got involved in martial arts, which I think is still a much more masculine culture. And so, and not that it doesn't try to be inclusive in its own way, but I think that there's just a lot more of that energy there. And I just kind of realized it's like, oh, this
Well,
is
that's
like,
how you become successful at martial arts. You have to be at least somewhat aggressive.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there are like a few of these things throughout your life where you have an experience and you're like, where has this been my whole life? And it just like,
Yeah.
it just turned on like a part of my brain that I was like, okay,
Yeah.
like this was a piece of the puzzle that should have been there. And I'm glad it now is.
That I felt that way when I started hunting.
Oh yeah. Hunting too.
Yeah. Same kind of thing. You've done a lot of that as well.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, we have this ranch out in Kauai and there's invasive pigs and we, on our ranch.
So I'm not going to make you guys sit down and listen to all this, but he goes into a little bit about him hunting. He talks about all these different hobbies where it seems like Mark Zuckerberg is really trying to solidify that, hey guys, I'm not this neutered, feminine man. I am embracing my masculinity as well. And you see the Dana White hire onto, I think, like the board of Facebook. I forgot what he hired him as, but is it believable? Most people don't think so. I will not believe it until I'm able to grow on Facebook. Sounds a little bit selfish, but that's my limit test for this because I have tried to diversify on multiple platforms. Two places I know for sure does not like male empowering content. And they don't care if you're talking about building families or if you are just embracing different set of values, they don't care. If you're somebody who is speaking on male issues and you believe that men should embrace a headship within a household, you're toxic. You're toxic on TikTok. They'll shadow ban you if you hold more conservative traditions. If you go check out your most popular content creator you follow on YouTube, go check them out on TikTok, which is looking like it's coming to its end. We'll see how things go. But you see that they don't perform as well on TikTok. And the TikTok algorithm is really good. It probably knows who's who and who's producing what. Facebook is like a ghost town. And I think there have to be drastic, very visible change brought to that platform for both users and content creators for people to really see the difference. Like there really needs to be an obvious change. Otherwise, people already hate Mark Zuckerberg. And that's not me just using strong words to be polarizing. No, they really hate this man, especially over there on TikTok.
There are still things in this world that no amount of money can buy. And for Mark Zuckerberg, it is the fact that no matter what, he will never, ever be Tom from MySpace. He will never have one of the most recognizable and iconic photos in all of social media. And no one will look back at that photo and think fondly of the man with the genuine warm smile who was so many of our very first friends on social media. Not a soul will look back on the cesspool that is Facebook and say, man, those were good times. We didn't appreciate what we had. And we'll
real quick, the cesspool description there, that's pretty accurate when you think of Facebook. Facebook is like a place you step into and you're just trying to figure out what's going on, right? Videos are random as hell because their algorithm is so strict that they actually can't feed you what you want. And so they're choosing all this like random different viral content. You may see something that looks somewhat entertaining or informative, then boom, random video from India. Like, what the hell is going on?
never talk about how great and creative it was that we all learned how to Photoshop so that an entire generation became completely unrecognizable on Instagram. And that fakeness is what pushed us to this platform here because we were so deprived of realness. But I will give credit where it's due, because if nothing else, Mark is consistent, because he's now announced that his platforms will be more like Twitter, which is completely on brand for a man who's never had an original idea and has been leeching off the ideas of others for the entirety of his career.
Let's check out some of these comments, see what people have to say. One of the top comments here says, Tom from MySpace is unmatched. Absolutely. Somebody responded. Here's somebody else who says, when Facebook falls, MySpace should rise up like a phoenix and bring us all back together again. Yeah. Here's somebody else who says, all that money, and he looks like that. Another person here added, Tom, where you at, boo? Bring MySpace back. There's a point to be made there in the sense that I think all social media platforms, and it seems like American media platforms, get to this point where they seem to prioritize ad dollars over the actual user experience of connecting with your audience. And I don't know what that is. And I think TikTok, which this may be hard for people to acknowledge, might show that the US has a lot of work to do when it comes to social media space. And there might be countries out there who actually do it better.
So this man thinks that 2025 is going to be his year and a renaissance for Meta. The one thing I cannot stand is a girl who don't like to compete, type of person who wants to be the head in charge but doesn't want to get in the field. We all know those type of people who want to sabotage the competition or politic behind the scenes so that they are the only competition. I really hope the universe has a surprise and gags him. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about not wanting to support Meta if TikTok is banned, and I will tell you that my Facebook and Instagram have been deactivated for over 2 years. And these recent headlines and interviews are really revealing who this man really is.
So he got rid of, I don't know if you guys saw this, Meta terminates his DEI programs days before Trump inauguration, which I don't see anything wrong with that, to be honest with you. People are acting devastated. I think they're overreacting. That is my opinion about that. But there's a good point here that's made about Mark definitely benefiting from the ban of TikTok. And the crazy thing is other platforms do benefit. The only difference is Mark was kind of an enemy to the coming administration. And so he has to take this very public, bold stance that he's no longer going to fight freedom of speech, at least to the extent that he was before, so he says. We will see what happens. It is looking a little bit desperate. But all these social media platforms, don't get it twisted, they're all excited that TikTok is getting banned. There's not any reason why any one of them would want more competition. There's just no reason.
And one thing I would respect about like a Donald Trump, or Elon Musk, or even a Jeff Bezos is they are who they are. They don't pretend to be something else. But people like this always send.
Mike Zuckerberg had another thing coming if you think I'm switching over to Instagram to post my videos. I'm going straight to YouTube. I don't want nothing to do with my... I might even delete Instagram because honestly, I never really cared for it. TikTok is my main platform that I'm on every single day. You're the reason we're going through this. And I promise you, Instagram is going to get deleted as soon as I cannot access TikTok anymore. Thank you.
All right, there you guys go. Of course, I'm curious to know, what do you guys think of that whole particular topic?